Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, April 7th, 2026 Haldane Board of Education business meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes. Roll call.
Yeah, sorry. President Clemens,
Here.
Vice President Valentine, Trustee McNall,
Here.
Trustee Cupper,
Here.
Trustee Clemenson,
Here.
Student Member Ruggiero.
Here.
All right. We're going to start the meeting tonight with a moment of silence for Maureen DeRosa. She's a former Haldane Elementary staff member who, I guess not just elementary, she was the administrative assistant to the director of pupil personnel services. And she passed away on March 30th, 2026. Thank you. So we do not have any additions or changes to the agenda as it's written right now. So maybe we have the recommended action to approve the agenda.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the agenda as written.
May we have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Don't you just feel like I have more things I need to say than I have? No, but I'm going to say that anyway. First thing I just want to note is that we still have petitions available for anybody interested in running for the school board. There's one seat open this year, and that's my seat because I won't be running again. And then just also a reminder that the budget vote will be on the third Tuesday in May, as it is in every school district in New York State every year. And the only other really remarks I have is we're really just starting to kick off the end of year activities. I was going through the calendar recently, putting all the concerts in my calendar and knowing that the trips have happened relatively recently, but in particular on Thursday night, I'll be going with our Phillipstown legislator, Nancy Montgomery, and I think Dr. Duffy's going to be there, and Mrs. Sniffen for the Putnam County Youth Board Youth Award Ceremony. And this is an opportunity to recognize 5 Haldane students who have been chosen for their outstanding volunteer service to the Putnam County, to Putnam County, to the community. And the students are, I hope I say some of these names right, Polina Buslovich, Christine Janjulis, Corinna Muller, Leah O'Neill, and our very own ex officio student board member, Max Sanders. So I'm looking forward to getting to do that. And that's really what I have.
Okay. So I hope everyone had a relaxing spring break. We know it's a very busy and exciting time of year. Believe it or not, we have about 12 weeks left of school, but somehow everything gets done and it's all going to continue on as we go. I kicked off my day today writing the red bus. So I am looking forward to writing one route for each of our buses over the next week or two. And that's really kind of a commitment to thinking through our transportation study and for me to get to know students, but also better understand the experiences. The kids were hysterical. They're at the bus stop saying, "Is that Dr. Duffy? Why are you here?" And of course, I'm letting the bus driver know I'm not observing them per se. I'm looking at everything, but I'm really kind of enjoying the time with the students. So it was great fun to go on that bus. And I think I'm on Blue Bus tomorrow afternoon. So more to follow on the bus reporting. So tonight we're going to have an update on 2 different presentations, one on zero emission buses and the other an ongoing budget presentation. So we're excited to have some people in the audience to hear with that. Traffic pilot begins on Monday. So this is again something part of our district commitment to transportation. We've been studying all things transportation, really with an eye on safety and efficiency. And so starting Monday, we're going to be having our traffic pilot. We've sent out a lot of information, including a 1-pager and a video, but we'll be sending out some more information prior to Monday. And just for any community member watching or listening, we will have an opportunity for feedback. And that's really important for everyone to give us feedback on what do you like about it, what's not working. A pilot really means to try something new. So we're testing something out and we're going to see if this makes sense moving forward. Over spring break, we did have a number of emergency kind of helpers in the community come on campus with their vehicles. So we had a fire truck, we had an ambulance, we had a bus, and we kind of practiced around campus how to make sure 2 vehicles can pass each other safely at once. So that went really well. And that is part of the testing of this new pilot. So more to follow. We look forward to seeing how it goes. And I'm talking to Mr. Asher tomorrow or Thursday about this as well. So there'll be a lot of communication to our community about the purpose of it and what we're hoping to gain from it. So that's beginning on Monday. And last but not least, we're looking forward to this week. We always have an opportunity for the Board of Ed to visit each of our schools, and then that principal gives that presentation. We're now up to the high school, so thank you to Julia and her staff ahead of time. And I believe Maggie and Michelle will be joining us on that visit, which is taking place tomorrow. So looking forward to that.
Great.
And that's all I have for now.
All right. And an update from our ex officio student board member.
Good evening. Hope everyone's doing good. Over the past few weeks, students across all grade levels had the opportunity to participate in our school trips that we take every year. They were both educational and memorable. Seniors traveled down to Boston, where they explored the city and visited places like the Science Museum, while also experiencing attractions like a Celtics game, NBA. The juniors went to Washington, D.C., where they visited important historical sites, including the Holocaust Museum, the African American History Museum, and the 9/11 Memorial Site, making the trip both meaningful and impactful. Freshmen and sophomores participated in day trips. The freshmen attended a Broadway production of Aladdin, where many students got to sit front row and see the amazing special effects in play. The sophomores visited the Bronx Zoo, where we got to see the awesome animals and exotic animals, especially like the lions, snow leopards, and even peacocks that just roam the area. In addition to trips, we have some upcoming events like the Rockapella concert on Thursday, April 23rd. Many students are looking forward to that, me as well. The SAT will also be held on April 15th, with many juniors preparing to take the exam. Shifting over to athletics, it's been an active start to the seasons. Boys lacrosse is currently 2-1, as well as girls lacrosse. Softball and baseball are both 1-1 as well. Track has its first meet today, marking the beginning of their season. Finally, in terms of student support, scheduling meetings and one-on-one sessions are in full swing as students are preparing for finals season and the next school year. Thank you.
So look, am I just only now realizing you're a junior or sophomore?
Oh, I'm a sophomore.
Oh, you're sophomore. Wow, that's it. So just to, I ran in on the train, ran into Andrew Chamkin, who's one of our early student at the time, they weren't really board members there. I forget. They were like something, but because it was a little bit different. But anyway, he said he still really remembered being on the board. And so anyway, promising. And so you went to the zoo. Yeah. And what did you like about that?
I've never been to a zoo before, so I didn't really know what to expect. It was my first experience. But yeah, it was really cool just seeing, like, I'd never seen almost like half of those animals, more than half really ever. So it was awesome, really. The bison, there was bison too, and the peacocks is what really makes me just wander. I was like eating my food, and literally, like, I kid you not, there it is. Peacocks standing there, it's like spreading its feathers. It was really awesome.
That's good. That's good. I'm glad you had a good experience.
Wonderful.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Just something for you to keep in mind. It would be good as I know Max might be here in the meeting right after we have the pilot. Maybe if you see him, it will be interesting to hear, because the traffic pilot is a pretty big deal. It'll be interesting to know if students have any experience of it, or if you hear anything about it, if you, as after it happens, I certainly, don't expect you to necessarily have anything to say tonight, but like after it happens, like what did you, what did you hear and what was your experience of it? I think that would be a really valuable thing to know.
And actually, Luke and Max helped us hand out the one-page flyers to our candidates
right.
around the district too.
That's great. Thank you so much. So now we're moving into our presentations. The first is a zero presentation. Oh, actually, sorry, a presentation, sorry, on planning for zero emissions buses. Yes, they're out of your way. Oops.
Okay. So originally, when we were thinking through sharing this information tonight, we were going to include it as part of our budget presentation, because as you know, one of our propositions being proposed is to create a reserve fund for transportation. But as we were pulling together the slides, there's just so much information. And so I thought it was better if we separate. It's still connected to the budget, but I wanted to make sure we just take a couple moments to talk about what our plan has been and what it'll continue to be for zero emission buses, and then make that nice alignment to the budget. So that's why it was called out separately. And there's been a lot of discussion and work already around how to meet this regulation. So the first slide is really just more informational, thinking through like what is the background information on this regulation. So a little while back, a regulation came out from the state that really is saying that beginning July 1st of 2027, all new school buses purchased or leased by the state or any district in the state must be are zero emission. And by 2035, the entire fleet operating the state must also follow this regulation. So the two dates there are 2027 and 2035. There's something called a fleet electrification plan. That's really the primary study that school districts are required to complete in the state. And it gives you a lot of information on things like what type of electricity is needed, what type of power, information on the cost of charging, and maybe updates to infrastructure. So this is a very important plan that districts need to have in place as they're planning to meet the regulation. There's also something called a waiver districts can apply. It's an extension to meet the regulations. It's given out often in 2-year increments. And really a district can apply and be approved for a waiver if they can prove a couple different things: unreasonable costs, lack of infrastructure that's in place, or that buses can't meet specific route or performance needs. So those are just a couple of the background information. And then cost has been a big discussion in districts as well. So thinking about a diesel bus, it's about $85,000 right now when we purchase a diesel bus.
For a small one.
For a small one, thank you. But when we're thinking through the cost of electric buses, there's a range here depending upon capacity. It could be $350 to $450K for just one bus, depending upon size. And then total estimated cost, in addition to districts planning for purchasing the bus, you also have to plan for purchasing and installing chargers, and also looking at any upgrades to your site for infrastructure. So for us, that could be up to $500,000, depending upon if we're able to get grant funding or not. And I'll talk about that a little bit in the next slide. So just a little bit of background information. There's a lot with this regulation that we want to make sure as a district we're just understanding what it's asking us to do. And then as important, how can we long range plan to meet this regulation? So this is where we are, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. So thinking through before I started, just almost a year ago now, there's been a lot of good research and planning in the district. So what the district did is started to look at research options, look at vendors, who can we talk to and better understand this regulation. And a couple of presentations came before the board the past couple of years. The first was the EV Make Ready Fleet Assessment, and that was completed by Central Hudson in May of 2024. And this one really gave the district information on how can we make sure we have the necessary power here in district to be able to power the buses, and also looking at purchasing and installing chargers, as well as potential infrastructure updates that are going to be needed. So that was presented to the board in May of 24. One piece of the story so far. The second was a presentation from Highland Electric, And that gave us an opportunity to learn a bit about if districts don't want to purchase V buses, you can lease them. So Highland Electric came in and gave us some information on what would the leasing process be. Additionally, the district has purchased a hybrid minivan. We have applied for EPA federal grants. That took place last year. And unfortunately, there's a pause with those grants. So some districts received some grant funding a year or two ago. Really, anyone who applied this year, Haldane included, we have not received any funds, and they're at a pause now at the federal level. So there might be other grant opportunities that we will explore, but the EPA is kind of off the table for now. Something that I think the district and board did that was very smart, though, is make a goal of transportation. So the transportation goal this year, and it'll most likely continue into next year, is looking at all things transportation. How can we be efficient with our transportation? How can we look at our resources, our staffing, our routes, and how can we plan for this regulation? So this is where we've been in this journey so far. So where are we this year? We've met with NYSERDA and we've met with INF Consulting, and INF Consulting is really the main consultant, or one of the main consultants that districts are using to plan for this fleet electrification plan. And again, that plan will give us reliable data on the electric infrastructure updates that we need to plan for, planning for chargers, any infrastructure updates, that type of thing. We don't have that plan in place just yet. We are partnering with INF. We are waiting to see when they're going to be able to start the plan. As soon as we have the plan and that data, then we can better plan to meet this regulation. But in the meantime, we're continuing to review our bus routes and our capacity as part of the transportation study. So as you know, we presented a little bit on this in January, and then we had to pause for a moment to look at our data. So one thing we're looking since that presentation is what's the software that we're using to make sure we have kids on the right buses and that we're really accurate with our ridership. So that's something that we're continuing to do. As I said, I'm riding the different routes to just get a sense of how many students are on the bus, what exactly is our membership, what is our ridership, because all of this information we need to have as accurate as possible as we're planning to meet this regulation. So kind of a lot of moving parts as we go. And then where we're going. So you'll see on the ballot in May, along with our budget, that we are proposing that we have a transportation reserve fund, and that's really to start saving for this mandate. Regardless of grants or not, we need to start saving as a district to be able to meet the regulation. We have our purchase. There also will be a purchase of 1 bus and 2 mini buses needed for 26-27. This will be the last school year that we can purchase diesel if the regulation stays as is. And then we're continuing to explore the district. Can we be eligible for this 2-year waiver or not? So we're looking to see if we meet the conditions for the waiver. And once we get the FEP plan back, we will then go ahead and make an action plan moving forward to how to meet everything that the regulation is asking us to do. So a little bit about our journey. And then just some areas that we're still assessing. I can't stand here before you all tonight and say I know exactly what our infrastructure needs are. We might have to do some upgrades, but we don't fully know that yet. The FBP plan will help us know that. Staffing, we have 1 mechanic right now. What I'm hearing from people in the field is you need at least 2 mechanics when you're working on an electric bus. So right now we have 1. So we have to kind of plan for that in future budgets. And then once we have all of the data from the FEP plan, deciding do we want to purchase our own buses or lease. And if we lease, we can then go back to Highland Electric and work with them a little bit. So just a couple things that we're assessing. So before I open the floor to questions from the board, a couple other things that are on my mind. You know, as a district, we do support the state's long-term goal of transitioning to zero emission busing. We believe in this. We believe in having, improving air quality. It's better for the community. All of these things we believe in. And there's still some unknowns with the regulation. So until we have as a district that FEP plan, I can't give out all the information that I know we need to have as we're deciding, do we want to purchase buses? Do we want to lease buses? How many buses might we need? So there is a lot of talk among the state in terms of this regulation, and districts are looking through, can they meet it fully now? Do they need a couple years or a little bit more time to kind of process? So we certainly as a district want to make sure everyone knows, as Haldane, we believe in the regulation, we believe in what it's trying to offer, and we might need a little more time in meeting the regulations as things unfold. So I just wanted to give the board and the community just a quick update on all things electric buses. I'm certainly not an expert, although I'm kind of becoming one because every time we read something new, we're kind of, going through what we need to. And I just want to thank Catherine as well, because she's been a great partner in terms of every time a memo comes out, we're reading it together. We might call Dave or call another district to get a full sense of what it's asking, but it's definitely a learning process for all of us, but something that we're also excited about. So I'll pause to see if you have any questions at all about all things e-buses.
I have a question. Theoretically, what hypothetical commitments to updating infrastructure are currently in the capital project?
So we don't have anything in phase one. I'm just saying this out loud. Right, not in phase one that touches this. There probably were discussions, if I go back to the big document of the multiple stakeholder groups, I'm sure this would probably discuss.
We talked about in the rethinking the patterns of travel.
Yeah, it's a great question.
As part of the transportation study, I think the bus drivers were going to be collecting numbers.
They're
Are they doing
collecting
that now?
ridership numbers, and then also when I'm on the buses, I'm counting as well. So we are looking at ridership to see, and we need that information. I might be going where maybe you're thinking, as we're looking at what buses to replace.
Yeah.
We will most likely, Catherine, just sanity check me on this. We will most likely not start with the largest capacity bus. We'll probably start with one of our smaller buses, partly because of ridership. So we don't want to commit to purchasing a brand new bus at all, whether it's diesel or electric, until we have our numbers where they need to be.
And I know, at least to the north of us in the Beacon district, which is larger, there's a certain push and move towards incorporating vehicles into there. But I'm curious, off the top of my head, I don't know, are there any similar sized districts, certainly not in Putnam County or even northern Westchester, that have started to make that transition successfully yet that we can identify?
Not quite yet. So districts either just have gotten their plan completed and it took over a year.
Right.
So there's also almost like a little bit of a backlog with the plans, or others are waiting to have their plan completed. There's really two districts. So I'm drawing a complete blank to southern Westchester. It'll come to me in a moment. And then one more upstate, but not Putnam Dutchess.
Right.
Not Chappaqua. Oh, it'll come to me in an hour.
Exactly.
Yes, so not quite yet.
Couple questions. So we'll go down infrastructure ones first. Where are buses currently worked on by the mechanics?
So that's a great question. Really, it's on site. There isn't a separate place for them.
Would that need to change for electric buses?
Most likely, we'd have to at least either look at our existing infrastructure, and this is what the FEP plan will tell us, what type of upgrades. We do probably have to make some upgrades to our current site. Yeah.
Despite us going out right now to the community, asking for upgrades, significantly around our, around our school. On the owned buses versus leasing buses, obviously you're not looking just at ridership, but you're looking at miles, right? Average miles that we put on. Leases always mean mileages, right?
Right.
And when looking at mileage, knowing from my own car, electric cars lose a lot in the winter. Okay. It's just the nature of the beast currently right now, right? It's just kind of how it is. So how are we going to understand, the impact of basically lost mileage that we have?
So that's part of the FEP plan. They will be going through the different options there. And that is an area, just in talking with other superintendents, it's a concern, like more of the rural districts, but there's concern with some types of buses, how far can they travel before they need to be charged?
Yeah.
And will they be able to actually meet the routing needs within this? So these are all some of the unknowns.
So just like an engineering thing, which is interesting about it, how Garrison had that problem with their heat pumps, AC is great. Heat's not so great. Well, that same heat pump is basically how you run your AC and your heat in an electric car. My AC is dynamite. my heat's garbage,
Mhm.
right? And so it pulls, it's not just the cold. As soon as you turn the heat on, you're really drawing down a good amount of power on those things. So it's something for us to really think
No, I
about.
appreciate that. Yeah, there's so much more
Yeah.
than meets the eye.
And the topography, just going up, the hilly terrain takes a lot more
Mhm.
energy.
And I mean, my understanding is that the push for the mandate, there was an expectation that the need for said buses would go up, and therefore there'd be certain competition in the marketplace so that the overall cost of these buses would go down.
Mhm.
That's certainly not something we're seeing, and we don't expect to see, which is
Haven't
what's
seen it yet, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, though, yeah. And the other thing I'll mention, you probably did not have a chance to read it yet, which is okay. We did receive an email today from the Lower Hudson Education Coalition. And just as a reminder, this is a coalition of school districts in the Lower Hudson Valley of the state. And so what they're asking us to consider is there's a petition that's going up to the state, not to get rid of the regulation, but to pause it a little bit. And so I just would encourage the board to read that email, and then perhaps at our next board meeting, we could talk through maybe next steps with that. But there's a lot of discussion within the districts locally right now about this regulation and how are we handling it and should it be paused? And so I just want to make sure that our board and our community has all the information that we need to as we're continuing to plan to move forward.
Could I ask that when we do discuss it, that having read that appeal, we've received other appeals from Putnam legislator. We've received a couple of appeals to advocate, and I'm curious to know, in asking for the pause, it seems to me that the justifications for said pause kind of align with everything that's in the request for waivers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be curious to know the difference between asking for, the waiver is versus a pause on said program.
Sure.
Just so I have a sense of it, because it seemed to be the rationale was, we're in a very strange area, and it's, all the things that we've been discussing are laid out there in the waivers too. Just for.
Yeah, so we'll be looking at we looked at the waiver once, we'll look at it again. We'll make sure we have that kind of looked at before the next meeting, so we can maybe do a crosswalk between the two.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other thoughts or?
I mean, I think the only thing just to really point out, and it's in the slide, but I mean, just to draw attention to it, is I think there's two things. One is just we've talked about before, but the massive differential between, the cost of a diesel bus and the cost of an electric bus. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that really represents a lot of money to a school district like ours. And then the other thing, and I'm thinking, I really appreciate that you included that we'd already purchased one hybrid minivan. And I know there are other ways in making different decisions that, we are thinking about how to support the same goals of the zero emissions bus law, right? So, anyway, I just think it's going to be in our best interest just to be cognizant of those things. And I hold myself very much accountable, and I also really want to say that it's a complicated issue. It's had a lot of steps, and I have asked Dr. Duffy to make like a cheat sheet for the board so that we can follow along, because it really, and I understand why you would have wanted to pull it out. There's a lot that's gone on, but there's really actually still a lot that really needs to happen as well.
Yes, this will be an ongoing goal for the many years to come.
Yeah. And, at the same time that we're also really thinking about our own need to be as efficient as possible and safe as possible in our transportation route. So it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot.
And I know that we currently have a proposition moving towards the budget for a new vehicle. When is the next large bus sort of up for
So for 26, 27, we have a proposition for a small bus. For 27, 28, it would likely be, if we needed anything, it would be another small bus.
Small bus.
And then we'll probably need another large bus.
So
And you're
29,
Mhm.
29, 30.
But that can change at a moment's notice based on when
Yeah.
you have a bus inspected or something, but that's based on our scheduled replacement. Mhm.
But by fleet, that's actually, I mean, I guess I've always sort of assumed. I feel like this is something I should know, but by fleet, do they mean, does it apply only to the large buses or it's large and small buses?
Large and small.
That's what I thought. Okay, for some reason, yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
any vehicle that transports students.
So that also then starts to mean like minivans.
It could
and
go to that, but they
cars.
have not, yeah.
So it.
They have not clarified to that level. Right now, it's
Got
the actual bus, actual bus.
Buses,
But,
okay. That's right, because that's how
But
we
they
always
have,
talked
they
about
have
buses.
said it will be.
Then that said fleet, yeah. Okay, all right.
To Sean's point, and he made a good one. How many companies are actually in the market producing these that New York State school districts are buying from?
Well, pull out a handy dandy report for you. I don't know if this is from 2 years ago. At that point,
Well, there's a big backlog too.
yeah, there was, maybe at least 5, but I don't know currently how many, and there is a big backlog too, as far as that goes.
And what there was a presentation from the leasing company kind of discussing all the benefits of leasing over purchasing, right? Just that the software programming is all included.
It's
the
soup to nuts,
repairs,
really,
yeah,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So again, I'm sure as the deadline draws nearer, just the weighing of the cost benefit analysis. Yeah, interesting. to
That
see.
leasing presentation was predicated on EPA, right? So
They helped
Right,
write
right,
the
right.
brand.
Right.
But Catherine and I did meet with them this year, so they're still doing that as an option if you choose to. They have other grant funding opportunities, but we still need the FEP plan done first before we say yes to it, because we
Yeah.
don't have all the information yet.
And they're busy. Working with all the schools.
Yeah. It's a backlog to get that done.
So more to follow on all things buses when we have more information, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
Let's go over here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to turn things over to Catherine in a moment, but I do want to just publicly thank her and all our administrators just for ongoing discussions that we have on a weekly basis about the budget, about our needs, about planning for the future. And tonight, Catherine has the honor of presenting all of the slides, but I'm here for backup and support.
Okay. So we are down to the wire pretty much with the budget proposal. As we spoke about last time, nothing has changed in our numbers from last time, from the rollover budget to what our increases are for this year. So the $175,000 for special education funding, $40,000 to increase our athletic budget, $16,000 for light rentals so that each fall and spring varsity sport can have one game under the lights next season. I'm sorry, my a little under the weather. A $10,000 increase for our STEAM. As you know, we have in the budget plans to hire a STEAM teacher, and this will give us some professional development, some supplies, and some curriculum materials as we start to build a robust STEAM program for the district. $10,000 for any middle school transition costs, $25,000 in increased salary for the school transportation assistant. As you'll remember, that is part of the transportation study, to add another level of a position in the transportation department to handle some day-to-day operations for that department. And some of that is offset by some retirement breakage of $185,000, which brings us to our target budget proposal of almost $9 million for 26-27. Our revenue has, right now, this is where it looks. As you might have heard today, the House and Assembly passed another extender, a second extender, so we do not have the unofficial budget coming out of New York State yet. The extender goes through, I believe, April 17th or 19th. So we will likely be adopting a budget possibly without our final state aid numbers, so hopefully. But what we have right now is the 5.53% increase in our tax levy, a 2.66% increase in state aid this year. And then we do have a large, it's 20, because our numbers are sometimes smaller, the percentage always feels a little larger, but it is a 22% increase in our other revenue. That's primarily driven by tuition for students who tuition into Haldane. We have had, besides our Garrison students who join us for grades 9 through 12, we have had some middle school interest, as well as students who have tuitioned into our special class in the elementary school. And then I have kept our appropriated fund balance and use of reserves flat as year over year, which brings us to a 5.77% budget over budget for next year. And we're now to the part where we have to start breaking it down for everyone into the three components. There's an administrative component, a capital component, and a programmatic component. So what this shows you is year over year through the district from 22, 23, all the way through to our proposed for our administrative component, which you'll see includes the Board of Education expenses, superintendent, finance staff, special items, that's like lawyers and central printing and things, administrative salaries, and any related employee benefits that come with the salaries that are included in this component. And as you'll see, we stay pretty consistent year over year. In 25, 26, we did have a very small increase in the percent of the budget in relation to the total budget, but right back down to about, it's usually around 11-12% of the budget comes from our administrative component. In this, you'll see we have a few categories that are coming in a little for this year, a little bit over budget, and a few that are coming in a little bit under budget. And that's just the nature of it. With insurance increases and some changes that happened after we adopted the budget last year, there's just some little bit of flexing between some of the categories. The next category normally comes in pretty much on target each year, and that's our capital component, which is our operations and maintenance staff, as well as their related employee benefits and our debt service. And as you know, we've talked a lot about debt service. You'll see in the far column, from the projected this year to the proposed for next year, that's the significant increase in our debt service payment, which is the primary driver of our large tax levy increase this year. But we are still coming in, somewhere in the same range of about 15% of our total budget is for our capital components. And then our largest component, which it should be, is for the programs in the district. So everything from the teaching of the regular schools, special services, instructional media, pupil services, which include guidance, health services, social work, athletics, co-curricular, as well as our transportation costs, and then the related employee benefits that come along there. You'll see as the years go by, we're actually pretty steadily increasing. This year shows a slight decrease, but I would say that it comes in about 75% of our budget each year is for the programs of the district. Like I said, as it should be. So again, just to summarize it into the three different components, our administrative component is 3.7 million for next year. Our capital is 4.7, and our program is 23.3 million to bring us up to that 31.892. Looking at our year over year, our budget versus our budget to budget versus our levy to levy. Again, you're just seeing the large increase this year due to the debt service payments that we need to make for the capital component. We will likely see that again next year, and then we'll start to see it hopefully decrease in in year 3. So it's a 5.77% budget to budget and a 5.53% levy to levy. For the budget vote this year, we have the 5 propositions as well as the trustee seat. Proposition 1 is our budget vote. Proposition 2 is the school bus purchase. Again, we're planning to purchase one 24-passenger diesel bus along with 2 minivans for a cost of $175,000. That is tax neutral to the district because as debt falls off from previous bonds, we add the amount in for the new purchases. We also have the proposition for the replacement of the tennis courts. For $275,000. That is also tax neutral because we have the money sitting in our capital reserve to be able to do this project, but the use of capital reserve does require voter approval. And then proposition 4 is the transportation reserve, where we are hoping to get permission from the voters to set up a new capital reserve for up to $5 million over the next 10 years to help us offset some of the costs that we were just discussing with Dr. Duffy for the electric bus mandates. Again, that's tax neutral. This would come from budget transfers, excess use of fund balance, or other ways that we could put money into a capital reserve. We do have one 3-year term seat up. And then proposition 5 is the Butterfield Library budget. And again, this is not a component of the Haldane budget, but when your local library brings a budget increase to the school district, it is required to be put on our ballot. And it's a small increase for them. And as we discussed last time, it's primarily due to the fact that they have lost their ability to do passport services, which was a huge source of income for them at the library. We then take last year's tax rate and we come up with a calculation of what we think the tax levy increase will be at 5.53% based on the market value of our home. You'll see it goes, starting with a home value of $300,000. This will cause a $222 tax increase over the year, up to $1 million home having an annual tax increase of $740,000. I did try to make this chart based on how much of it is the regular school budget, what we would have the standard school budget increase, and how much of it is related to the capital project, and it's approximately 50-50. So, if you took those numbers and divided it by half of that would be for what we would have had if it wasn't for the debt service payments for the capital project. And then in very exciting news, we are planning our groundbreaking for June. It's officially happening, so it's very exciting. And then, not that we want to talk about bad things happening for the budget, but we do need to start planning for if the budget didn't pass. If the voters reject the budget in May, the first vote, the board has options. You could call for a revote of the exact same budget. You can put forth a modified budget to go for a revote, or you can go directly to a contingency budget. I would imagine that we would go forth with either the same budget or a modified budget first to try again. The thing is, with a 5.53% tax increase, we would still have a high number to even with our modified budget to cover all the expenses that are required for next year between debt service payments and our mandatory expenses for increases. If we did have to, if we went to a contingency budget, or if the budget was voted down a second time, we would have to enact a contingency budget. And that would require a reduction of $1.2 million, which means our levy has to get set to 0. You can have no tax levy increase in a contingency budget. That's a large number for a school district the size of Haldane. It's for any district, but a contingency budget includes only those expenditures that are necessary to provide the minimum services that were legally required to operate and maintain the school buildings and the educational program, preserve the property of the district, and ensure the health and safety of our staff and students. We would work with the Board of Education, with the superintendent and the administration to determine what expenses must be removed from the budget to meet this requirement. There are certain, every expense that goes through a school district is either a contingent expense or a non-contingent expense. If it's classified as a contingent expense, we can include it in a contingency budget. If it's classified as a non-contingent expense, you cannot include that number in your contingency budget. Examples of non-contingent expenses are equipment funds. So we would have to take down all equipment funds. There are certain positions that their salary increases are non-contingent, so you wouldn't be able to give salary increases. There's lots of different ones. It would take a lot of work to come up with what we would need to do. But even if we removed all the non-contingent expenses, we would not hit the $1.29 million that we would need to. So, but just so everyone knows what's really at stake with the budget. And then we have a few more meetings before the big day. In the April 21st, we'll do the budget adoption. We'll present our line by line budget that night. And then on May 5th, we will have our public hearing and the 3-part component budget broken down into additional detail. And then, of course, the budget vote on May 19th.
Well, we've never really talked, or I don't remember having conversations as much about what exactly is in a contingency budget, right? This notion of contingent versus non-contingent. I've always sort of thought about it as just involving like massive, like really big cuts. But it sounds like it is really big cuts, but it's even more complicated than that, because there are some things that there's some things that right off the bat you have to get rid of, right?
And and just the way things go, there's a complication with that. But like, so for example, one of the biggest ones is equipment funds. But the little clarification on that, though, is you can spend up to the amount that you receive on your hardware aid for state, so it's really a complex calculation of what we would have to come up with. But again, what we have in our budget as non-contingent expenses is nowhere near the almost 1.3 million. So it would be painful cuts.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you all are working on this, but I think one of the things just to continue to remind the community is that, half of this increase is something that, as a community, in terms of the overall vote, like that, the community, endorse the capital project.
Absolutely. And, in the capital vote in 2024, we did say that this would happen in 2026, and
right,
here we are, and it is happening. So it's a funny thing about the way that you do a capital referendum, where they approve the tax increase at that time, but then they have to reapprove the budget that now includes that increase.
Yeah, and I think that's where there might be confusion, right? So what exactly is this? So
they merely approved that we could ask them.
yes.
Yes.
Well, but it's
Yes, you
more
can
than
ask
that.
us.
You can ask, but it's more than that, because it's happening regardless, right? Like it's happening. It's happening regardless, right? But it's sort of like, I don't know exactly how to put it, but it's not like you can now vote and not have the capital project.
Right.
The capital project it's a done deal, right? It's just, how do we pay for it? Do we pay for it? Well, maintaining our current programming, as well as some minimal enhancements or not. So
Excuse my misunderstanding then, if we went to contingency budget, we would still go forth and start the capital project?
absolutely.
Okay, because it was approved. But if the budget is not passed, meaning that we can spend the money, well, because we already approved that we could spend the money. I'm just doing like the gymnastics in that.
But I mean, so that money we've committed to that project, and so then
Borrowing has begun, so.
yeah, and so then what would be cut would not be the capital project.
It would be all the
program.
Yeah.
Programming would be cut.
Program.
And it was helpful from a communication standpoint. So we will be meeting next week with our community partners to go over the budget and also asking for their perspective and the boards as well. Other ways to continue to communicate the budget out. And so one thing that Catherine and I have been talking about is, do we offer perhaps a virtual other evening or
that's a
budget
good idea.
forum, and maybe community members can RSVP ahead of time so we know who might be joining us. And then just working with the community partners, what questions might they have? And do you need any other information from us as everyone is talking through the budget? We'll also be doing our optional faculty meetings for our faculty and certainly for anyone who works in the district and lives in the district. It's always important to be mindful of the budget, but this year, certainly moving into 26, 27, we want to make sure everyone is informed and have the information they need so they can make an informed vote.
I'm gonna ask a numbers question, but I don't think it's a big one. Could you go back to the breakdown where you had transportation? And to me, it looked like transportation represented 3% roughly. And does that include staff? So transportation, does that include staff?
It does include staff.
Okay, so that includes staff. So that's number is somewhere around 3%. Right? One.
Yeah.
One, right? 31 million.
31 million, yep.
3%. So, to me, that seems good, right? There are neighboring districts that spend far more than 3% of their budget on transportation. Seeking electrification, your estimate would suggest that that number would go up.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so,
Because we
budget
like-
says pieces of pie and all that type of stuff. That number would definitely go up
Definitely
beyond
numbers that would,
3%.
right, the numbers that would go in there that would immediately increase it would be another mechanic. Their salary would go in there. The electric usage, that is, because that would have its own electric bill that comes through that we would post to those general ledger codes. So yeah, you would start to see a large increase in there.
But your diesel and gas costs is in
Would
there.
go down.
Right, well, but that's also part of
That's
your
also-
transportation.
Yes, absolutely.
That's all part of that
Mhm.
section. So where that,
Bus
where that,
repairs,
yeah,
are in there.
right, okay,
Would you say
I
the
appreciate
bus what?
Bus repairs are in there.
yeah.
The
And-
materials and supplies for the
And
transportation
debt services in there too for buses, or no?
No, debt service is its own line that comes it's in our capital.
It is capital, okay.
Okay,
So you'd actually have increases in two places, potentially.
If we were borrowing for them.
If we end up doing that, yeah.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That wasn't bad. That was not a bad question.
Thank you so much.
Anything else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry for.
Sorry you're not feeling well.
Thank you.
I'm glad you weren't choking up about something. I thought, your emotion.
Cares very deeply about the budget.
Very good.
Well, now at part of the meeting where there are opportunities for communication from the public. The Haldane Board of Education desires and values input from the entire school community. The first public comment session is reserved for comments on any special presentations or active agenda items. For those who wish to address the board, we'd ask you to state your name for the record and sign in. And to avoid disparaging remarks and or discussion about district personnel. Even though the board would not engage in dialogue, we'd be listening. And one of the reasons we asked for contact information is so that we could follow up with either the superintendent or the board. So next on the agenda are our information reports, which we'll consider at our next business meeting. And then we'll move into our consent agenda, starting with the consent agenda minutes for the minutes from our March 17th meeting. May we have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, our committee minutes from the Wellness Committee. So thanks very much to that committee for sharing their minutes with us and meeting. And really a lot going on and to continue, like even with the cell phone ban, really still a lot of concern around or conversation about phone usage and behavior on phones. And I guess there's a
They're
big
gonna-
event coming
Yeah,
up.
they're bringing a guest speaker in, to speak to all grades, you know, who will be able to offer resources to students regarding negative cell phone behavior, internet safety, AI, and social media. So just sort of depending on, you know, age appropriate messaging for that. So, yeah, and just, it's, again, just to reiterate from the last time that we had the meeting as well, it's a lot of our professional staff keeping a close eye on students in the hallways, you know, with the holidays coming up, even in the springtime. I mean, any kind of holiday, they're just sort of keeping their eyes on kids who, you know, may not find the joy in a certain holiday, Mother's Day, for instance. So
Okay,
it's
right.
just a really perceptive, and it's
Okay. Oh, that's
Nice to-
great.
nice to-
Yeah, that's good. Oh, yeah, keeping good eye on students. That's good. Next, we have the consent agenda. Financial, may we have a motion, please?
So moved.
I don't think there's anything we need to call out. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And next is consent agenda personnel. May we have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Now moving into new business, we have the Committee for Special Education and the Committee for School Special Education recommendations. May we have the recommended action, please?
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Board of Education hereby approves the recommendations of the committees on special education and preschool special education as presented.
May we have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And it may seem far away, but we're gonna have a discussion about the annual reorganization meeting date, and I'm gonna hand it over to Dr. Duffy.
Sure. So the reorg meeting will be held on the first Tuesday in July each year. In the event, it will be held on, unless it's a legal holiday, in which event it will be held on the first Wednesday in July. But the board may be able to pass a resolution if we'd like to hold it anytime within the first 15 days of July. So in looking at summer, thinking through capital projects and a couple of commitments that I have going on, I wanted us to try to start to think through possible dates and potential times. And so in looking with district first to see who from district needs to be at this meeting, we picked a couple dates that we wanted to just share with the board to see if there happens to be one that we might be able to start to think through. So proposed dates could be July 1st, July 2nd, or July 9th. And we offer also at 9 a.m. because my understanding is at times this meeting has taken place in the morning and not also at night. I'll just offer my first day here. We had the reorg meeting, and while it was only my first day, it's nice to have the meeting. It kind of kicks off the school year and it really kicks off the summer. So I'm open to these 3 dates or others if we need to look at, but I wanted to just bring it forward to see if the board had any thoughts initially on those couple of dates. Thinking about I keep looking at Peggy, we'll be just calling her in July. Thinking about vacation plans and other family obligations that you might already have.
Peggy doesn't have to check her calendar.
Look
Look at that, huh?
Wow.
The first is a good day for me. Rather late nights around that time. 9 a.m. is also good for me.
Okay.
I'll put that out there. I mean, I could do this the second for sure.
First and second for me.
Okay.
First.
Okay.
I can do the first.
You can do the first.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're okay with the 9 a.m. time?
Yeah.
Excellent. That was easy. Let's see if the next one's going to be just as easy. So the other thing I'm working through is our board retreat date. And so we know that we've worked very closely and nicely with Putnam, Northern Westchester BOCES for a couple of years with the retreats. And getting to know superintendents across the state. I've gotten to know a superintendent by the name of Jason Andrews, and he is superintendent in Windsor, but he's done a lot of board retreats through the School Boards Association. And I just really think he would be a perfect fit for our board here, especially thinking through the transition that we have with Peggy stepping down and a brand new member coming on. And so would love to offer him the opportunity to come and work with us during the board retreat. He is very highly sought after. And so he gave me a couple of dates. So we might not work as well with these dates, but these are the couple that he would be free. And this would be a nighttime, probably a 6 p.m. start. He offered July 27th or July 28th or August 3rd, 4th, or 24th. So I maybe won't hit gold with these couple dates, but I figured I would at least offer to see if any of those might work.
So August, I'm gone.
Okay.
So July works for you.
July works.
July.
Those July dates.
Okay.
They all work for me except August 24th. So the
Okay.
earlier ones, the 2 July and the 2 early August.
Okay.
So far out there, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
No, I have to go check
All the
all the
calendars.
things that we
Yeah.
have not been planned yet.
And that
But we're usually here in July. I think July would.
July might be okay.
Tuesdays are always good for me, so I think that,
That would be the 28th of July.
yeah, the 28th would work for me.
Okay. That seems okay then for all for now. How did that work out? 2 for 2. Okay.
And what time would that be at?
6, unless we wanted to start a little bit earlier. We'll have dinner
Cool.
and we'll work on the agenda ahead of time and everything as well. Okay, so just to recap then, we're saying July 28th for the retreat and July 1st for, I didn't serve that, thank you. July 1st for the rework meeting. Okay. Thank you all.
Right. So next we're coming, as I said in my comments at the very beginning of the year, it's early April, but still the end of the school year certainly is at least in sight. And so that brings up the opportunity for the superintendent and the board to engage in the superintendent's evaluation process. This is the timeline. I gave everybody a little piece of paper that I printed out that we worked on at the beginning of the year, just to remind folks about dates. There's actually a lot of space between these dates. So there is the opportunity for some flexibility, right? So one of the things we did do, we gave, we need to be finished by the 15th. But the plan right now is for Gail to share her written self-evaluation and all of the documents that go along with that by a week from tonight. Mm-hmm. Then for the board to review those and complete the evaluation instrument with scores and written comments about 10 days after that. That then gives a couple of weeks before we meet together, then to go over the sort of collective written comments. And then this is where I feel like there's so much time in it. And I don't know if we want to leave it like this, but then really a month later, not until June 2nd, the board meets with the superintendent to go over just to engage in the collective conversation around the evaluation process. So I think part of it is that I think the reason why we got to this is because of the budget vote, like it's kind of hectic to do it all in the middle of the month. And that gives us plenty of time to for me and whoever else wants to help me sort of go through it all and pull it all together. And then share it with the superintendent. So, but we can, I think we should just leave it like this, but I wanted people to know what it is. Okay.
Yeah, I think you were lining up with board meetings too. So.
I think that's
Yeah,
it
that-
too. Yeah. planning and
Mhm.
report
Yeah, there's no
meetings, that's
separate
right.
meetings. It's
That's right.
aligned.
So that we don't have to meet on a separate night.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So you're good?
I'm good.
Good. Okay. Just a reminder.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah, this will be Michelle's first time doing this.
Woohoo.
It's a very, I mean, evaluation has all these connotations, but it's a very, historically in this district, it's been a very positive, collaborative, opportunity to reflect on the year. So I expect that to be the case this year. All right. So now we're moving to the second opportunity for communication from the public, which is really open to anything district related people want to talk about. All right. Any board reflections?
Well, I don't think we've met since Les Mis, so got a shout out to the cast and crew on the phenomenal performance. I was blown away, completely enraptured, cried several times. The talent is astounding. Also, just want to shout out to all the parents who, like, it's a huge lift. The parent volunteers who built the set, all the costumes, just amazing. I was talking to, just highlights the school as a community hub. Like there were so many people in the audience who didn't have students on the stage, right? Like, but people from the community come to see it. And I was talking to this couple from, I think it was Canada, who just like to go travel and see all the productions of Les Mis that they possibly can. So, and they were like, this is so good. They were wearing their T-shirts that had like the prisoner number 8, what is it?
24601.
24601. I'm like, somebody knows it. So yeah, just congratulations. It was wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Canadians.
Canadian.
Very cool.
Yes, congratulations.
Oh, yeah, Dina.
Just wanted to mention, nice to be out there in the spring, starting to see all the spring sports and all the sports fields coming alive, and all the kids and the coaches and the parents and the community around behind all these new, all these reborn sports, which is great. Yeah, a lot of time goes into that by all the staff and the players, and obviously the grounds crews that do all the work. So just another nice, part of the wheel, I guess, right? Yeah. So it's really good.
Sort of on the Les Mis, but Les Mis adjacent is one I went on the Friday evening, and I would say a half a dozen of the students who were in the last production of Les Mis. So Jean Valjean was there, and Eponine was there. A lot of kids that I know, they were there, and I was sitting behind them. And I know all of them fairly well. Some of them are still here. Some of them are kind of scattered about the Northeast, but they couldn't have been more beautifully supportive of everybody. The joy that they brought into being together and seeing the successful production was just really beautiful. It's great to kind of be able to be there near them while they were celebrating.
Thanks for that.
That's a cool moment.
Right. All right, Dr. Duffy?
I'll go on the Les Mis bandwagon as well. I was there Saturday night, and I was close to tears, like most of it. And I'm like, why am I so emotional? It was amazing, but it also hit me. This was the very first play I saw on Broadway in high school. And I emailed the directors the next day, and I said, this was hands down far better than the Broadway production. I've been in awe of our students, of our teachers, and thank you to Julia for all the work you've done, just keeping it afloat, because it's a lot, as you said, a lot of moving parts, but our kids are amazing, whether they're on the field or doing their music, art. It's just a magical place here, but the show was just, I'm still talking about it to people. It was just phenomenal.
I'm speaking out of turn here, but we have middle school coming up. Middle
Yes.
school at Robin Hood.
Yes, we do.
Right.
I think it is on there already. All right. Okay, so the board is actually going to, I think if I can do me a favor. Yes. The board is going to convene into executive session for the purposes of discussing collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law. We'll adjourn from that meeting. We won't be making any, taking any action. And so I move to adjourn
into executive session. May we have second, please?
Thanks.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any-